Marcelo Garcia against Lachlan Giles. What a match, and what a win for Lachlan. The perfect way for him to retire. I'm Ross. This is a solo Jiu Jitsu Oracle. I usually chat to my co-host Callum. He's away this weekend, but I wanted to do a solo pod just to talk about the amazing match between Lachlan Giles and Marcelo Garcia at One Championship, and some of the action that we saw at Who's Number One, headlined by a great win for Luke Griffith against Felipe Pena. But first, we have to talk about Lachlan Giles. The match against Marcelo Garcia was one of the most anticipated matches in Jiu-Jitsu this year, and I think it definitely lived up to that billing, which is credit to two grapplers who are now in the Masters categories, no longer probably in their athletic prime, both kind of competing less. Marcelo has been away from elite competition for a while. He had his health situation to deal with, where he had stomach cancer, I believe, and then having got back to full fitness, decided to return to competition for One Championship. And then we had Lachlan, who, after being on the scene for a while, had that breakout performance at ADCC, and then has been focusing more on coaching in recent times. And he said after his victory, which we'll get into, we'll talk about how it happened, but we'll just kind of set the scene first. He said after his victory, that's him done. What a way to secure victory. What a way to head into retirement. So it was about 7 minutes into the match. Again, I said I'll talk about the earlier stages of the match in a little bit, but the finish came about 7 minutes in. Lachlan secured a K-guard entry into a sort of knee bar position with a bit of a twisting foot lock, with the foot attached to his kind of like neck area. You can see this finish very easily online, on Instagram, on YouTube Shorts, etc. It's not hard to track down. Which is great, but what was harder to track down was the entire match itself. I believe it aired in the UK on Sky Sports in the wee small hours of the morning, live. Let me know in the comments how you managed to access this match. Let me know what part of the world you're in and how you managed to take a look at it, because there was all different ways in different regions to see it. And yeah, in moments like that, I do enjoy being able just to load up a Flow Grappling or a UFC Fight Pass and just click on the event and see it right away. But managed to track down the match, have a good look at it. Lachlan went into the finish, secured the leg lock, and then revealed after the match that it's a move he's recently been working on. It's a move that is on his most recent instructional that he's released. So that's ideal for him. How many sales is he going to get off this win, now that people are now aware of the Locky Lock? And like, it shows what a humble guy Lachlan is, how nice he is, that even when he was explaining the move that won him the match after, and he was kind of asked what it was called, he's like, I'm going to name it after myself, the Locky Lock. But he didn't do it in a way of braggadocio. He was, pretty humble about it. I'm just like, yeah, I'm just going to name it after myself. Why not? So I thought the post-match was really interesting. Both guys are two of the nicest guys in Jiu-Jitsu, and the contrast between them giving credit to each other and and just being like pretty chill. And then we had Who's Number One, where I'll jump into Who's Number One for a sec here, and then I'll come back to the one championship match. But Who's Number One, when Luke Griffith secured a rear naked choke against Felipe, and I probably held it like 1 second longer than Felipe would have wanted him to. Felipe was tapping, but Luke was kind of waiting for the ref to intervene, which, you know, given what we saw in CJI, is understandable when there was all the controversy over whether Taylor Pearman had a submission victory by tap out over Giancarlo Badoni. Did he tap? Did he not? Luke was just saying he was holding the position until the ref intervened. Felipe was a bit unhappy about it. Kind of briefly kind of lashed out at I can't remember, it was a push at Luke, and then had some words. And then Gordon Ryan and Big Dan, Luke's teammates, immediately got up on the match. And if there was a pushing match that was a way ensue, they were absolutely ready for it. I thought it was funny that folk are online are saying, oh yeah, that's like boys looking out for boys, etc. It's like, what was really going to happen there? There's going to be like a few pushes between a few guys. It wasn't like they were riding to the rescue that like some people are trying to portray it. But the contrast with that scene, which I'm kind of fine with because it's sport and emotions can run high and it's a physical sport. And if you watch any physical sport like rugby or NFL, you're going to get some pushing, going to get some argy-bargy at times. So I'm fine with that. But it was just an interesting contrast between that and then the Marcelo and Lachlan situation. So back to one championship. Let's go back earlier in the match. It kind of went as expected in terms of Marcelo being on top, Lachlan being on bottom. I thought Lachlan played the guard game incredibly well. Marcelo, it was interesting to watch, made several postural changes during the match, try to crack the code of how to get through Lachlan's guard. I was even thinking for the match that we might see Marcelo try to go airborne a little bit and get over the top towards a guillotine grip, but he did not manage that, and he did not get round the side towards north-south, which is another way that he has been able to get through guards. It's very much Marcelo playing on top, Lachlan playing kind of around about half guard, but Lachlan had done his homework. We saw in the lead up to the event, Lachlan put out a video showing how Marcelo has passed guard in competition, and that was obviously well trained by Lachlan in the lead up to the event. He had answers for every posture that Marcelo went into. I was wondering, would he be able to elevate and get under Marcelo and get in the legs? Ultimately, he did. Before we got to that situation, Marcelo he was playing at a level where, you know, he was trying to force 3.5 guard. He tried to force a barfly guard that Lachlan absolutely was not having any of because he knows Marcelo's really good at passing from there. Marcelo even tried to flatten out and sprawl with his hips on the mat and walk round. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. Like, could this be the way to turn the corner? Lachlan answered that position with a shoulder clamp and attacked the arm. And then Marcelo later built a higher posture, and then Lachlan got to the K guard, and then ultimately to the Locky Lock, which is going to be part of the meta now. I can only imagine the amount of guys going into the gym today and trying to work through it. If you've got Lachlan's latest instructional, you'll be ahead of the game with it. It's really interesting. It just shows that jiu-jitsu keeps advancing, keeps improving. I thought Lachlan, after the match, in his interview, it was really interesting how he just said, you know, his breakthrough came about 17 or 18 years into his grappling, and it just shows you've got to keep going. I think Lachlan's quite inspirational in that the breakthrough for him came later in his life. He kept working his game, and he's been someone who's tried to innovate and improve his game consistently over time. And in the end, once it's all said and done, then that approach was really successful for him. So I think, if you're a younger grappler and, you're hoping to improve, hoping to make progress, keep chipping away, keep looking at good sources for information. And, someone like Lachlan shows, like with the right approach, you can definitely get it. You can get it to a really high level at the end, So credit to him. I thought it was a fantastic way to finish his career. And he did say, like, that's his last match. Why would you do another one after it? And he's going to focus on coaching now. I think that studious approach is also very commendable. I saw this chat about online after the match, and I'd like to get your thoughts on it. Any thoughts you have, please get into the comments and let me know, and then we can keep this discussion going after the pod. But Marcelo, someone pointed out an idea that in his career, he's very much had the mindset of, I'm going to impose my game on the opponent. I can make it work. And he has made it work. But where he's come a cropper at times, and he's been beaten a few times over the year, was when he ended up in positions where rather than necessarily having a lot of defense set up predicting that he would be in that position, he's like, I'm going to get myself out of here having got into it, and kind of backed himself. Maybe that happened here, I don't know. Because the actual finish came, like a few seconds after Lachlan got the entry to it. And I think the entry to it was more because Marcelo was trying at different levels, different heights to get through Lachlan's guard, and it wasn't really happening. So I'm not saying that was the reason here, but it was interesting if that two styles exist of, like, are you super confident, backing yourself in every situation that you'll be able to work your way out of it should you end up in it, and you don't think you will end up in it, versus someone who's going into like a deep study on their opponent and trying to work out, like, absolutely where they don't want that opponent to be in terms of Marcelo's passing, and absolutely where they want to put that opponent and how they can get there, which would be Lachlan entering the K-guard. So that was one championship. We also saw a decision victory for Baby Shark, which kind of thought going into the match would happen. This isn't going to be a podcast where we get into a play-by-play on every match that happened. I just want to talk about some of the highlights that we saw across two great events of grappling, and then try and contextualize it. Luke Griffith, great victory over Felipe Pena. Really tough to come back after losing twice to Felipe by submission previously. Third time around, it was Luke's turn to get the submission win. I thought the prediction going into the match was, if Luke can start well and build a head of steam and keep it going, he'll do well. But if there comes a point in the match, which, we're basing this off some matches we've seen Luke, but thinking about particularly the ADCC match against Felipe, when the tide starts to turn, how does Luke react to it? Can he then deal with the change in the match circumstance and stay ahead of Felipe? But we never got that far. Felipe, I thought, started relatively decently in his guard. Got to, I think it was kind of like an R guard, like double Del Hiva situation where he managed to, like, tip Luke down. And it was sort of, as he came up there, he was maybe like a little bit sloppy in the heist, the rise to top position. And Luke managed to get on his back, and then no mistake from Luke on the back, sunk in the choke to get the win. Contextually, What we're looking for is a heavyweight to come to the fore and get some consistency in beating their rivals. So that's one thing Gordon was absolutely exceptional at. Just the consistency of victory. There was never any doubt over who was the #1 heavyweight grappler when Gordon was on the scene competing, because he beat everyone. This current group of heavyweights, and I get that it's really difficult, but you've got Nicky Rod, Victor Hugo, Luke Griffith, etc., and Kynan Joe, and they all kind of seem to be capable of beating each other, and no one's really like stepped above and got like a consistent run of like 2-3 victories against each other. So now that Luke's beat Felipe, who's definitely in that category as well, can he go on and back it up with a victory over one of these other guys off the back of that win? Not like that he's had a victory over one of these guys previously, but now can he put together a run of like 3-4 victories in a row? He's young enough that if he can become that #1 heavyweight that we're looking for now that Gordon's seemingly stopped competing, focusing more on coaching at Kingsway. So that question's out there for Luke. Can he become that consistent grappler that is the firm #1? We'll find out over the next few while. Hopefully the matchmakers keep putting these guys against each other. Other standouts on who's #1. Great submission win for Helena Cravar. I think it was an Aoki lock. Kept up her really good run recently of victories. She's been very active, which is great to see. A lot more active than other competitors of her standing. So we do a list every once in a while called the OP, the Oracle poll, ranking the top 6 grapplers as we see it, who are the most interesting, exciting, engaging in the world. And as far as I remember, and I'm doing this pod with no notes in front of me, just a stream of consciousness, the last poll had Helena at #2, with Mateusz Szczecinski at #1, based on his awesome performance at Polaris, where he got multiple submission wins in a row. Now, Mateusz hasn't competed again since then, so it's going to be hard for him to retain that position if we don't see him out. But Helena at #2, I would say highly unlikely that you're going to drop after a submission victory. So another great performance from Helena, and yeah, hopefully she keeps as active as she has been. We saw a good performance from Chris Wojcik. Could he be the most improved grappler in recent times? I say that because he's improved his leg lock game, adding some new elements to it, the Wodge lock being the most well-known. But we've also seen him develop his wrestling game. And then against Oliver Taza, we saw this brilliant top game that Chris now has, using the body lock position to secure a lot of passes. Credit to Oliver Taza, he has some great escapes. Also credit to the two guys early on in the match. There was a guard battle, both guys trying to enter the legs, willing to go down, trying to enter the legs, willing to come up, try and get top position. That's so refreshing. If you're someone who plays guard and you like to enter the legs, being willing to come up on top and secure top position is really good to see. And some leg lock guys, you see they're only want to play on bottom and just consistently try and enter the legs over and over again. And across a 15-minute match, that can become a little bit boring, a little bit tough to watch if the cycle just repeats itself. So I thought those two guys put on a great match, really well put together match by whoever booked it. So credit to them. Shout out Faris, the UK's Faris Ben Lankadem, who had a good win over the legend that is Janjay Ribeiro. Good wrestling, good talk game from Faris, but you know, it's not the Janjay from, you know, many years ago that was able to beat Roger Gracie, so it has to be kind of contextualized. Faris is, what you'd say, like an adult athlete competitor, if we're talking about jiu-jitsu divisions, and Janji's well into the Masters categories, but nonetheless, still a good win for Faris. And I thought Janji did well with like durability, getting back into the game whenever Faris had the upper hand in top position. But ultimately, like, he was never really able to like get anything going on Faris. Even right at the end, there was a little hope spot. It was like, is Janji going to kind of empty the leg, go towards the back? But Faris was able to disengage from the situation. So yeah, I thought that was a strong performance from Faris, and yeah, sets him up well going forward. He's obviously got a bit more well known off the back of CGI 2, where he headed up the European team. So yeah, good win for him. And Gabi Pisagna, shout out both Gabi Pisagna and Paige Yvette. Like, Gabi had the better of the match. Paige Yvette did really, really well. She was in a couple of tricky spots, but got out of them. It was a decision loss in the end, but you know, she did well. Gabi Pisagna, I think, I know about her dominance in the gi. Coming over to the no-gi scene, it was going to be interesting to see how she played, and she did really well. I don't think no-gi is going to be much of a problem for her. We saw her enter the legs. We saw Paige Yvette kind of entering the legs on Gabi, and Gabi was able to defend it. So she is going to be a great addition to the no-gi scene. And was there anything else on WNO for you that stood out? The two matches that I really wanted to see this morning when I got up were Felipe Pena against Luke Griffith and Marcelo Garcia against Lachlan Giles. So they were my priorities. I got them in. I then went to SBG Aberdeen in Scotland, where I train, and we had a seminar. We're a small gym. One of our guys, Ben Campbell, has qualified as an adult black belt for the GI Worlds in 2026, and we put on an in-house seminar, and he has got one of the best tilt sweeps. I'm not saying it is the best. I'm saying I've not seen anyone play better. So, you know, it's up there. He's got an awesome tilt sweep half guard game. Check out BCAM on Instagram, BEINN Campbell. And yeah, so with in-house seminar, I got 2 hours of awesome tilt sweep instruction material to work. That came off the back of watching the Marcelo match and the Luke Griffith match, and then after, got back, checked out the other matches. So if I've missed anything out across this stream of consciousness pod, get into the comments and let me know. If you agree or disagree with anything I've said, get into the comments and let me know. One last point. I don't think this affects Marcelo's GOAT status in any way. And prior to the match, my co-host Callum and I had a chat about who we think the no-gi GOAT is. And the more we talked about it, the more I start to think it's Marcelo Garcia. And if it is Marcelo Garcia, this loss doesn't take anything away from that. He's playing with house money, as it were. He's competing just because he wants to at a later stage in life. And as a fan of jiu-jitsu, it's fun to see him back out competing again. So that's it for this edition of the Jiu Jitsu Oracle. Please like and subscribe to the podcast. Shout out Brandon Reed, who was in the comments on one of our previous videos and said he loves the Jiu Jitsu Oracle and he thinks we should have more subscribers. So listen to Brandon when it comes to wrestling advice for Jiu Jitsu, and listen to Brandon when it comes to recommending podcasts that you should subscribe to.